Hi guys, it's Shannon and welcome back to Counter Canter. So a week or so ago I got requested to do a like costs of owning a horse UK edition. I'm presuming by how the person worded it there's a lot of US edition ones but isn't a UK edition, and I thought it might be something fun to talk about. So I thought it'd be something fun to do just because there seems to be a lot of stigma around horses being very expensive. And I'm not saying that isn't the case. I mean, for example, Newt cost me £220 like 2 weeks into me owning him because he had an abscess. At that point I didn't have a farrier, so I had no choice to go to the vet. So I'm not saying they're not cheap, like they are cheap, they're definitely not cheap, but there are ways that you can cut costs and make it affordable. So I thought it'd be a really fun thing to do for people who are looking to buy a horse or who already has a horse. I might do a sort of money saving tips video separately, but I thought it'd just be a nice thing to talk about from someone who completely pays for their horse themselves. And I know this might be a little bit controversial because I pay for Newt entirely myself, and that's great. I love having something to rely on me. But I understand that quite a lot of you are fortunate enough to have your parents, your mums, your dads, you know, any guardian paying for your horse or paying towards your horse. That's fine, I don't have anything against that, but I'm just going by my experience. I wasn't brought up in a family where having a horse brought for me was an option. You know, we didn't have much money. I have got a sister, so it's not like I'm an only child. They had to split it up fairly. So this is just going to be a video about my experiences, how much I pay for Newt, and yeah, so let's get started. So first off, the first thing that you're obviously going to need to pay for when you buy a horse is the horse itself. Honestly, this is probably as cheap as it gets. It gets so much more expensive from here. But a good quality horse does not need to be expensive. So it's just a case of looking around and making sure that you buy a horse within your budget. So what I would recommend doing is making a list of qualities that you definitely want and qualities that would be nice to have. So for example, when I was looking for Newt, I knew I definitely wanted a horse between 14.3 and about 15.3. I'm a very small person, I'm only 5'4", so I don't really have the leg to wrap around a big horse. I just struggle to ride them. So anything higher than about 15.3 was just out of the window for me. So that was a necessity. One thing that I would have liked was a Welsh pony. I was very lucky to have got literally the horse that I was looking for. But I was also looking at Connemara's, I was looking at Irish sports horses. I did want something to event. That's one thing that I didn't get with Newt, but I'm not saying that he won't. So making out a list and making it really, really easy for you to really like put down on paper and visualize what exactly you want without getting over the top really helps you keep your costs down, because you know what is going to be realistic in terms of the horse that you want. Yes, obviously that's a bonus, but if it doesn't come with tack and rugs, that's fine. Try and keep the cost down, because the cost that you keep down once you are buying your horse will obviously go towards the tack and the rug and the fun wardrobe stuff. For example, I had a budget of £1,000. I was looking for a project, I was looking for something green, possibly unbroke, just because I train a little bit differently. I didn't want a horse that had already been ruined, basically. So yes, I wanted to do all of that myself. I wanted to train in the way that I wanted to train, you know, I wanted to do all of that myself. So I was able to have a lower budget. Also, because I was paying for it completely myself, I had a low budget anyway. Newt was £400, so you know, he was an absolute bargain. I stumbled upon him and I was lucky enough to find a lady who wanted him to basically go to a good home more than the price, so that was really good. That's another thing that you can also look for to keep the costs down. Okay, so the second thing that is probably quite obvious is the cost of food and hay and bedding and things like that per month. Obviously it's best to shop around. That is obviously going to be expensive as well. They obviously need to eat, they need to have soft bedding, unless you have a hardy horse or a horse that you're able to keep out. So obviously if your horse is turned out all the time, it's going to be a little bit cheaper because you're going to cut costs on bedding and stabling and things like that. So that's going to be cheaper, but you need to work out a feed that you can afford but it's still going to be beneficial for your horse. and that is possible. Newt has been on the same feed since I got him, and I've recently started changing it. Now he's in proper work, but I had to buy what, like 2 bags of feed since I got him, because there was a summer that he was out all the time on the spring grass and he'd really gotten fat, and because he was having time out to mature, he didn't need the sugars or anything. So that whole of last summer, he wasn't eating hard food, he was just eating forage and hay. I think, actually, tell a lie, he had a dinner. So feed is obviously very important, and you want to make sure you know how much you're going to be getting for the bag, and then you can work out how much you're going to need per month, if that makes sense. So for example, I'm going to be swapping Newt over to the Pure Feed company because it seems like a really good food for him, and I think it will suit him really well, as well as putting some weight on him. So it is a bit expensive, so what I've done is I've spoken to their nutritionist, found out exactly how much Newt's going to need per day, and then all you need to do is just times that by can you see the cogs working, because I'm not very good at maths, like explaining it. So all you need to do is times that by, say, 31 to get a rough guess of how much he's going to eat per month, and then you can find out how much that's going to be per bag, and then you can find out how many bags you're going to need a month, and then find out how much money you're going to spend on feed a month. Done. Maths is sorted. So Newt's been out for the past 2 days 24/7 because it's been like 23 degrees, and yeah, he's been having his dinners still, but he's been put back out in the field. And I know I've said on his Instagram that he's dropped off a bit, which he has, but I am adding things into his feed to help with the grass, and then when he moves onto the summer field, it's going to obviously be a bit better because he's going to have all of that spring grass in him as well. So I'm not too worried, but obviously you're going to be needing to pay more in the winter for the bedding costs. And the best way to do this is to shop around, find something that works for you. For example, straw is a cheap bedding option. That's great. You can get a big bale for, like, say £35 in this area. But it is not cost effective if your horse is like Newt and eats it all the time. When he was on straw at my old yard, I was putting in like a massive slice a day. It just was not cost effective because I was getting through a massive bale of like straw in about 2 weeks rather than it lasting me a month or so. So he got moved on to shavings, which is a little bit more expensive, but if you think about it in the long run, horses aren't going to eat shavings, so it's going to cost a little bit better. So you need to find a bedding that works for you and your horse, and then again work out how many bales you're going per month, and then see if that fits your overall horse budget. Okay, so the things that you are definitely going to need per month, possibly if not per 2 months, is the farrier. So my farrier comes every 2 months to do Newt because he's barefoot, and that only cost me £20 because he's not shod. So you need to work out how much per month that's going to cost as well. So yeah, just make sure you shop around and ask and sort of gather a little bit of price around that sort of budget that you're looking for. But this is one thing that you are just going to have to splurge out on. There's no ifs and buts there. You're going to have to splurge out a little bit more if your horse is shod, or if there's only sort of like, say, one good farrier in your area. So that is one thing that's definitely going to have to be an expense. And that's the same for saddlers, chiropractors and all the rest of it. So the next cost that you're definitely going to have to pay out for is insurance, and I highly recommend getting insurance. You might not need to use it throughout your horse's whole life, but there could be one injury that could cost you a couple of £1,000s, and your insurance will be there to try and support the main brunt of it. So that's one thing that you're definitely going to have to pay out for. So Newt's insurance is £32 a month, I think now. It went up last year. But he's with Pet Plan and he is insured for life. And the really good thing about Pet Plan is when you download their little form to make a claim, it says at the bottom, I think it's something like pay vet directly or pay you directly. We had to claim for my dog Loki because he had an abscess in his tooth, and that cost like almost £1,000. But at the end of the form it asks you if you want to pay directly to your vet, so you don't have to, and then you just have to pay the little bit of excess, or if you want to pay your vet directly and then Pet Plan will pay to you. So they're really good with that, and they will work with you and the vet to make sure everything's paid. The next massive thing that you need to pay for is livery. Again, this is about shopping around for definite. I'm very lucky to have a yard about sort of half an hour away from my house, like half an hour walk, not drive, away from my house, that has amazing facilities and is a really, really good price, and they have like a feed store on site and things like that. So I'm very, very lucky to have that. But obviously some people might have to drive to their yard, so you need to take into account if you're driving to your yard, or if your parents are, or whoever's driving to your yard, you need to take that into account of, is it worth being so far away? Is it going to be more expensive going there for fuel? We pay, I think it's like 140, no 100, it went up, and that's really bad that I can't remember. I think it's like £130 we pay per month, just for his field and his stable. That's not any bedding or anything included with that. But we only have about 2 yards in my sort of little town that's connected to the city. So it's either that, or I'm going to need to get a bus because I don't drive. So I think that is the main things that you need to think about when you're first getting your horse, and the prices of it. I am going to do like a little breakdown right at the end of how much we roughly pay per month, just so you can see sort of what sort of things you need to think about and the rough costs of owning a horse. Obviously, if you're lucky enough to have your own house where you can keep your horses at home, you don't need to pay for livery or things like that, and you can get your feed in that bulk, so it will last you a bit longer in the long run, so that's really good. But just for like the average human being like me, that's how much my horse costs per month. So, and obviously it's going to differ per horse, because some horses are going to need better feed, other horses are going to need less feed, so it is definitely just a complete rough like ballpark figure. But yeah, and honestly, like I said before, the actual figure it costs to buy the horse is like the cheapest bit. You've got the monthly expensive and thing like that, so if you can't keep up with the monthly expenses, you need to sort of maybe think about loaning or something else, because it is expensive. So you just need to think about loaning or something, because then you can still have a horse, but half of the expenses will be taken away. Okay guys, so that is all the expenses that I can think of off the top of my head. I really should have done a plan. I should really do a plan for most of my videos, but I don't, so we're just gonna roll with it. So yes, if you did like this video and would like to see more of me and Newt, feel free to hit the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell, so then you can get told whenever I upload a new video, because quite honestly, it can be a little bit hit and miss. There's no set days. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a money saving tips video next. So if you have any money saving tips that you'd like to get featured into the video, leave them down below and I'll make a list of them all. Also, I really, really want to do a Q&A. I thought that would be quite a fun video to do, and I'll probably do it up at the yard with Newt, even though he'll probably like eat my hands off. So if you have any questions about anything, about me, about Newt, about riding, about training, about dogs, I can answer dog questions. Leave those down below as well, and I will make a video on that too. And lastly, I was thinking of doing like a trick series, because as you may know, Newt knows how to smile, and I will add a little photo here of him and his horrific smile. So if you wanted to know how to teach your horses how to smile or do any other tricks, I've recently taught him to sort of hold like a towel, like an old rag or something, and sort of shake it about, just to keep your horse's mind stimulated. Then let me know down if you'd like to see a series on that as well, because I love teaching Newt stuff like ridiculous tricks, because he's a very, very intelligent horse and he needs to be stimulated a lot. So if you want me to teach you guys how I teach the tricks of Newt, then let me know down below and I will do my best to get back into that. So as I've said like a million times, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in our next one. Bye guys!